What I'm doing here is going to the columns in any order and still having this counter being accurate without triggering every single possible permutation of going to the columns.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
Relax. At the basics level, a QuestVar is just a number. It can't hurt you. Now, they obviously seem quite daunting and complicated for new players. I'm going to go through some basic QuestVars and show you that they're not something to be feared and actually one of the most useful tools available for scenario designers in Age of Mythology. This isn't going to be the full story of QuestVars. There's quite a lot more to them, but that comes at the intermediate and expert levels of scenario design. So, the basics. Let's have a look at what we've got regarding QuestVars. Mainly, we've got two conditions, QuestVar check and QuestVar compare. QuestVar check just fires if the QuestVar is at a certain value. You can also change the operator here and customize the relation of the QuestVar to the certain value. So for example here, this will fire if QuestVar 1 is greater than the value of 1. The other condition we have is QuestVar compare, and this just compares one QuestVar to another QuestVar. As I said, QuestVars are just numbers at this level. Our effects for QuestVars, we're going to be looking at 4 of them today. QuestVar set, QuestVar randomize, QuestVar modify, and QuestVar echo. QuestVar set, what this one does is it defines what you want the number to be. So we create a name for our variable. This could absolutely be anything. I'm going to call this QuestVarYeeb, and I'm going to set it to a value of 47. This means I've created a number that the game is storing. If I want to call this number, I can apply the effects to QuestVarYeeb, and at the moment the value is 47. I'm just going to make this always, and we can see what happens with this one. Next, I'm going to use the QuestVar echo, and I'm going to put QuestVarYeeb in there. So what this trigger does is it sets my QuestVarYeeb to 47, and then echo just says what the QuestVar actually is. If I playtest this scenario, you'll see QuestVarYeeb is set to a value of 47.0 for 6 decimal places. We can now use some of the other effects combined with echo to show you what's happening in a bit more detail. QuestVar randomize allows you to set a value for the QuestVar with a minimum and a maximum defined. So I'm essentially doing a random number from 1 to 100 and then the game's spitting it out to me. Here we've been very lucky, we've hit the maximum value of 100. If I playtest exactly the same map again, the value's gone to 12, and if I do it again, that value's gone to 78. The QuestVar randomize has an option of rounding on. If you set this on, it will generate whole numbers as we've just seen. If I turn it off, you'll see that the decimal points are utilized. We also have the QuestVar modify, and this allows us to change our QuestVar. So we could add 2 to it, we could subtract 2 to it, we could use an asterisk to multiply it by 2, and we could use a slash to divide it by 2. If I'm copy and pasting the echo in, you'll see this in action. So, first off, it's generated a random value between 1 and 100, 3. Then it's divided it by 2 to get 1.5. Quite simple. The QuestVar is just a number, and those are all the conditions we're going to need to look at in this instance. Now you may be wondering why a QuestVar has 6 decimal points after it. This is because we want to look at the data type of which a QuestVar is. So a QuestVar is defined by Age of Mythology as a float. A float is a number that has decimal places after it. So usually it's 1.000000. The game just uses 6 decimal places. This is in context to an integer, which is a whole value with no decimal points. So an integer is a value 1 or 2 or 3. A float is a value 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, but also anything in between. So it could be 3.5, whereas an integer could not be 3.5 because it does not have any decimal places there. This has implications in our maps. So if, for example, we want to use this QuestVar to display information to a player, we can do so. You'll find that there are multiple QuestVar conditions, which I'm going to use in this video for simplicity's sake. So, for example, let's say our 10 is trees remaining. We don't want any text after it, and our QuestVar is just QuestVarYeep. What this spits out is a fake counter saying trees remaining 10.00. That's because the QuestVar is being displayed as a float here, so you've got the trailing zeros. That number would change in accordance to what the QuestVar is. So you can see that's how I did my columns in the introduction to this video. As you can see, there's quite a few ways to use the QuestVar. You can use it to grant resources, you can use it to damage a unit, you can convert, you can put it in overlay text, you can send it in a chat. There's really huge possibilities for this. Now, what if I wanted my counter to display, but I didn't want these trailing zeros? What I'd need to do would be to convert my QuestVar into an integer. How do we convert a float into an integer? That's a topic more for the intermediate section of the video. However, what I'm going to show you is how we do this. It's using a line of text, and I'm going to provide this text in the video description for you to just copy and paste and use as you would like. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to manually type this code into the fake counter. So I've got my message, which was trees remaining, and then the code we want to use is 1 times trQuestVarGet, and then the QuestVar name goes there. This is the code that I'm just going to have in the description for you to copy and paste, so you can copy and paste this in and just replace the QuestVar name with whatever your QuestVar is. You don't need to worry too much about how that works and why that works in the basic video. I'm just putting it in there as a solution to a very common question. We'll now see if I test this. My QuestVar is an integer, it has no trailing decimals, and it just looks a lot nicer. If we just used the QuestVar modify instead of QuestVar set, this would still be fine and not cause a trigger lock. This is because when we start the game, every QuestVar is defaulted to a basic value of 0. So I could set it to 10 or I could add 10 to it. It just matters because you can change what the QuestVar is dynamically. If you wanted to add 10, that's very well. But if you absolutely needed it to be 10, you would use QuestVar set to override any previous value it's had before. In the conditions, QuestVar check and compare we've already mentioned, so I'm just going to show you an example of that. So if the QuestVar is equal to 10, which we know it is, we're going to send a message in the text box. It's going to be high priority, so you'll see here that the message is going to display because my QuestVar is 10. If we were to set this condition to 15, it would not display until the QuestVar is exactly equal to 15. What we could do here is just put this on a loop, have a timer accurate condition, put it to 200, and use modify +1. What this is going to do is it's going to increase that quest var, and when it's 15, the message is displayed because that condition is met. You can see this is increasing it dynamically without the need for refreshing, because AOM only has one fake counter slot, and we're overriding it each time the quest var is added, so you've just got this really nice count up smooth effect here. It's also true for other operators. We don't have to be confined to add 1. We could add 1 and multiply it by 2. The order is important there because of the quest var displaying after the operations. What we've got here is add 1 multiply by 2, so you can see it's going up a lot faster. We never got our message because that quest var was never equal to 15. You find eventually it runs out of digits and defaults to this value here. This is just because AOM's literally run out of numbers. There's only a limit. I think it's about 9 nines, so that's the limit. Anything more than that and you get this number here, or an error if you're unlucky. We could do the same with the quest var randomize. So if we set it to between 1 and 20, you can see that number's changing. It did hit 15 quite early, and we got our message as a result. Again, this condition is fairly simple to play with. We can say if it's equal to or greater than 15, then that message box will appear, and it went up to 15 straight away, but it would fire for any number bigger than 15. We can use questvar compare if we want to compare quest vars. So if I have questvar yeeb being equal to questvar 2, that would mean that the message fires. I haven't defined questvar 2 yet, so what I'm going to do here is make the minimum value of 0 and the maximum value of 5. Because questvar 2 hasn't been defined, it defaults to 0, and as soon as questvar yeeb, our trees, and our number displayed here is equal to 0, that is equal to questvar 2, which hasn't been defined and is automatically defaulted to 0. We could of course define questvar 2 with a questvar set and a questvar modify, and that's how we'd make sure we utilize that condition to its fullest extent. I hope that has demystified and explained the quest vars for you to a basic level to allow you to implement them in your maps and open the door to the possibilities that they can generate.